Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for coming to this masterclass from Bad Boss to Team Builder. I'm really excited to be here because I want to share today the most important techniques that I have found work for leadership development. After years and years coaching hundreds of leaders and doing executive coaching and leadership training, I have found that these are the most important solutions for finally creating the leaders and the culture that you want in your organization. And we are going to start with that today. Let me move to, well, my name is Guillermo Mendoza. I am a global speaker, executive coach, trainer for the international coaching community, and also one of the founders of Impact Coaching Solutions, where we certify professional coaches and we also work with organizations to do executive coaching and leadership development programs. Let's start with the problem. I want to state the problem because the big thing about the topic today is that after many HR studies, we have realized that people are not leaving their jobs. They are leaving their bosses. 70% of employees leave or consider leaving because of their manager, not because they don't like the chores or the functions of the job, not because they don't like what they are doing, but because they are not liking how they are being managed by their manager. So this is a statistic that should concern every leader and HR professional in the room. Imagine 75% of employees have left a job or seriously considering leaving, not because of pay, not because of benefits, but because of their manager. Take a moment and let that sink in. And before we go any further, I want you to do something with me. Let's participate here and do a little bit of an exercise that I run sometimes in one of my presentations and workshops. I want you to go to the chat and just imagine, remember the worst manager, the worst boss that you have had in your career, in your professional story, in your professional career. Bring to your mind the worst manager that you have dealt with. And I want you to write in the chat some words that describe this manager. Please go to the chat and let's participate and have some fun here. Write in the chat some words that describe your worst ever manager or boss that you have had. And let me review those words and see if it's similar to what I have found in other presentations. Please go and participate and write what describes the very worst manager that you have had. Thank you for coming, Robert, Ivan, thank you. And I start seeing the messages now. Okay, entitled, that's one word to describe the bad manager. Entitled, he only cared about the number of sales instead of team efficiency. Okay, a leader that is thinking that the most important thing is the number, the most important thing is the KPI, and he's not really thinking about team efficiency of people. Other words to describe your very worst manager, the bad experience that you have with a bad manager. And while you write in the chat, let me tell you some other words that I have get in other presentations. Sometimes I get the word micromanaging, or a leader that is dismissive, or a leader that is controlling, or a leader that is unpredictable, or a leader that is a little bit as what you said, Ivan, with entitled, ego-driven. And I want you to realize with these words and noting something important. None of these words describe a lack of intelligence. They describe how it felt to work with that person. I was micromanaged. I was dismissed. I was over control. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't like this person was egotistical or entitled. So they are describing how the person felt to work with that bad manager. And this is an important thing because let's review the situation. I want to be very, very clear on something before we go any further. This is not about bad people. Most managers are not villains. They care, they work hard, they want to succeed, they are doing their best efforts to grow in their careers and to have a good team that produce results because that's the function of the manager. So they have good intentions, they are not villains. But that doesn't mean that good intentions equal good leadership impact. And I want to share a real story. As I was posting and promoting this masterclass in my social media outlets, there was a lady that answered to one of my postings where I talk about people leaving bad bosses and not leaving jobs. And I really love the story because it resonates a lot with what we are covering today. She said, once my manager changed, every day became harder. When I resigned, multiple department heads asked me to stay, but they understood when I said I couldn't work under him anymore. And it took 2 years to replace me. Imagine that. This is what silent leadership failures looks like. It's no gelling, it's no scandals, it's just slow, expensive erosion. And what organizations sometimes are not realizing is that even when those managers have the good intentions, they have poor leadership impact, and this has a consequence that is massive, massive hidden costs. Because every time that you lose a person because of a bad manager, you have to start a recruitment process, you have to go through a selection process and have interviews and have people lose time interviewing people. And also, you have to go through the onboarding process and retraining of the person. So there are massive, massive hidden costs. Organizations are losing millions, millions of dollars because of bad bosses, because every time they have to replace a position, productivity suffers, you have a gap of functions that are not being done, and all the hidden costs of recruiting, selecting, hiring, onboarding, retraining, all that is a huge, huge amount of money. So that's a massive hidden cost that I want people to really reflect after this and realize. So that's the problem and that's the situation. Now, what is the reason this happens? The reason this happens, this is the real root of the problem. The real root of the problem is that we promote people into management because they are excellent performers, excellent individual contributors. And because he or she is doing it so well, we think now the next move is to move this person to a management, to a supervisor or a management position or any kind of boss or chief position. And then we expect them to suddenly know how to motivate humans, how to manage emotions, how to give feedback, how to delegate, how to build trust, how to handle conflict, and often with zero training. And when pressure hits, then people don't rise to their potential. We start getting problems, they fall back to their conditioning, and we expect these people to figure it out. And leadership gaps don't show up on calm days when everything's going well. They show up under stress, when there is pressure in the business, when there is pressure on deadlines and the functions. That's when the worst of us is going to surface, and the worst of us as managers is going back to our patterns and going back to the fact that we don't know all these things. We don't know how to motivate. We don't know how to manage emotions. We don't know how to give feedback. We don't know how to build trust. We don't know how to handle conflict. We don't know how to delegate. And that is going to come to the surface. So the one thing that I always tell HR people, we have HR leaders here, HR people, please, when I present in conferences about leadership, I tell people, if you are going to do a single change in your organization, a single change that is going to have a profound impact in the organization, is do not give management training to managers. Do not give management training to managers. Give management training to those that are not yet managers, because they need the skill, they need the knowledge before they get the position, not after. The normal process is that we promote an individual contributor, we promote an excellent performer, we send them to management functions, and then they fail. And then we say, now this person needs some management training. No, they needed the training before taking the position. It's actually a weird thing that we do in organizations, because in any other field, We first get the knowledge, we first get the university, the education, the training, and then we use that knowledge and those skills applying to the job. But for some reason, management is one of the things where we do it back. We put the person in the management position, they fail because they don't have the knowledge, and then we decide, oh, they need some management training when it's already too late because they already generated some problems. So please, please, please start training people with management skills before they are managers. That is going to help solve a little bit of the reason why this is happening in organizations. It's okay, promote for performance, but make sure that that individual contributor, that top performer, gets the knowledge on how to be a first-time supervisor or a first-time manager. Don't expect them to figure it out. Now, I offered today in this masterclass that I was going to give you some practical solutions and things that you can apply with your team as a leader or as an HR leader in your organization. And I want to tell you that most of my work is based on what I call three pillars. I am a professional coach since 2009, so I have a lot of coaching skills and tools and formats and knowledge and concepts that I think are very important for leadership development. So I use that in my work. The other pillar, one is coaching, the other pillar is emotional intelligence. I think that when people realize that this is about understanding how emotions work, they are going to become better leaders. And then my third pillar is neuroscience. I have found that learning about how our brain works and how the brain of our collaborators work is going to create a big change in our leadership. I think leadership is a brain-based skill. And not because we have to think as leaders, but because we need to understand how the brain operates in ourselves and how the brain operates in others. Because it's a very interesting fact that I want everyone to remember. Even when we have evolved as humans for millions and millions of years, we are still 82% an animal brain. So from our brain here, 82% is already is staying an animal brain, and only 18% of the brain is a developed, let's say, thinking brain. That is going to affect everything that we do, because every conversation activates our brain, either with a threat reaction or a trust in the brain. Now, since 82% of our brain is still an animal brain, the main function of our brain is protect us. And in the past, thousands or millions of years ago, it was protecting us about bad weather, it was protecting us about a tribe attacking us, it was protecting us from wild animals. And now, for most of us, those are not the big problems, but the brain is still protecting us. Now it's protecting us about taking care of our image, keeping our credibility, keeping our status, looking intelligent, but it's still protection. So all conversations are going to be analyzed by my brain and decide whether I notice it or not. So this is an unconscious process most of the time. My brain is going to decide if this is a threat or not. And if this is a threat, it's going to create a response. Now, I want you to reflect that when the brain operates like that, we have what is called a fly or fight response. And I'm going to give you today three solutions to improve your leadership, three solutions to improve your leaders. And solution number one is to learn and understand how the brain works and how the brain is related to threatening language. When you use threatening language, you are triggering a reaction in my brain. And the threat in my brain is maybe I don't look intelligent, maybe I can lose a status, can lose credibility, can lose my image. So the way that reacts is creating the flight or fight response. Now, what is the flight or fight response? The flight or fight response is that when I am under attack, either I counterattack, fight with this, or I run away to save my life, fly. That's where it comes from, fight or flight, attack or run. Now, we think that that's not happening now with humans, but it happens every day in organizations. Imagine a meeting room. You are in a meeting room in your company, and someone says, you said something, and then someone in the group, in the meeting, says, that's stupid. We are not going to do that. I am under attack. That was language that is making me look bad, is saying that I had a stupid idea or I am stupid and I am under attack. So immediately, whether I notice or not, my brain is going to the fly or fight response. Now, what I am going to do, I analyze in my brain, is this person, well, let me go to this metaphor. Imagine that you are walking in a trail in nature, in a park, and then a little animal is right there, and that little animal notices you. What is the first thing that they do? The first thing they do is freeze, because freezing is like, maybe he didn't see me. And that happens in a meeting room. When you were attacked with that comment, the first thing that you do is like, freeze. Maybe not everyone noticed this attack or that he said I have a stupid idea. Second thing, that animal is going to make a fraction of a second analysis, thinking, is this thing bigger than me and has the potential to eat me? I better fly, run away and run for my life. Is this thing smaller than me and maybe I can eat it and could be my food? Then I'm going to attack. Fight response. Same thing in the meeting. You are under attack, you freeze, and then you analyze. Is this person larger than me? Meaning, is my boss, my superior, top management? Then I should run away for my life. But because it's not socially acceptable to stand up and run away from the meeting room, then you just stay there and you accumulate stress. Now, if that person is smaller than me, meaning maybe he or she works for me, then I'm going to attack. I'm going to the fight response. And I'm going to say, I don't care. We are going to do it that way. And I am attacking that person back. So I want you to notice how these animal reactions in the brain and this flight or fight response operates exactly in the same way. And it's going to create those responses. So we as leaders need to understand that our language is going to be perceived sometimes as a threat. The amygdala is the part of the brain that is going to take over, and threat doesn't mean necessarily danger, but it means judgment, uncertainty, loss of control, shame. So when you will use a phrase like, why didn't you? Or when you use a phrase like, you should have, or when you use a phrase like, this isn't acceptable, it's going to activate the threat response. Now, let me tell you this fascinating way our body works. When the threat response is activated, the fight or flight response, the blood that we have in the brain goes to the arms and to the legs, because I need my strength in the arms and legs to either fight back or run away. Same thing after lunch when the brain loses irrigation, blood irrigation, because it goes to my digestive system to digest, and I feel like I want a nap because I have less blood in my brain. So the brain is a magnificent organ, it's a great organ, but to work, it needs chemicals, it needs hydration, water, and it needs blood. And as leaders, we don't realize that when we put someone under this threat, even when they don't notice it, the flight or fight response is going to suck blood from the brain, put it in the arms and in the legs, and I have immediately in front of me a less intelligent person because he's under the flight or fight response. And that is going to decide how that person reacts. So when I present in conferences, sometimes I ask the audience, what do you think or what happens when you listen to your manager to say, hey, could you come to my office, please? I get comments like, maybe I missed something, maybe I'm going to be reprimanded, maybe I'm going to be fired. But I never got an answer like, hey, I got a promotion, I'm getting promoted. No, because the brain is protecting us and the brain is going to look for the negative things, not the positive things. The positive things are not a threat. The negative things are a threat. So the brain is going to be aware of that and is going to be concerned of that. And we are generating right there, the flight or fight response. And what happens? Creativity drops, learning shuts down, defensiveness increases, And the prefrontal cortex, right behind our forehead, the part responsible for thinking, planning, and problem solving, that 18% of our brain that is a thinking brain goes offline. It's not working as well. And most managers unknowingly trigger these all day long. Not because they are bad leaders, but because they were never taught how the brain actually works. So solution number one that I want you to go away with is spend some time learning about how your brain reacts, how your brain is protecting you, and how the brain of your collaborators, peers, manager is protecting them. Because that is going to help you to regulate sometimes your language and be more aware of not generating aggressive or threatening language. And that is going to take us to the second solution, which is actually a very practical and tangible technique to reduce this. And it's a technique that is called the asking permission technique. So instead of saying to a person, could you come to my office, please, which is going to create all this reaction, I can use the asking permission technique and ask that person, hey, is this a good moment to review the sales report? If I ask that way, I am creating two very important things. Number one, I'm getting rid of uncertainty. It's not that you are going to be fired. It's not that you have a mistake. It's not that you missed something. It's that I want to check the sales report. So I'm getting rid of uncertainty, and that is avoiding the other brain to generate the flight or fight response. Second thing, I'm giving you an out because you can say, hey, could we check it this afternoon because I'm not ready with the report? Or I have a big priority today. Can we meet tomorrow morning? So I'm leaving you an out to negotiate that meeting. So the asking permission technique achieves that. Get rid of uncertainty and giving you an out. And those two things are reducing or eliminating your flight and fight response. So I continue having a very intelligent person in front of me that is not dropping creativity or thinking or solution problem or anything. So compare these two statements because it only requires one small shift. Sometimes the good news is that transformation doesn't require big speeches or complex frameworks. Sometimes it's just small tweakings to the way you work. So compare these two statements. If I say someone, you need to do this differently, that's attacking the brain, even if it doesn't sound like a bad language or anything. But I could say, would you be open to exploring a different approach? Asking permission technique. Neurologically, this lands very differently. The first triggers threat and defensiveness. The second creates safety, curiosity. So asking permission for leaders, let me also stress this. Asking permission doesn't weaken your authority. It actually strengthens engagement with people. And this one technique alone dramatically reduces resistance and reactivates thinking. So asking permission technique, solution number two that you are taking from today. So understanding more about the dynamics of my brain protecting me, number one. Number two, using the asking permission technique to avoid that reaction in people and to avoid the threat response. Let's move to solution number three. Solution number three is talking a little bit about feedback. For years and years and years, HR field has made some studies about feedback. And the same way that they have found that 75% of people leave because of the boss and not because of the job, they also have found that feedback doesn't work. We have been using it in the wrong way and is not the best way to develop people. Why? Because traditional feedback focuses on the past. Past means a judgment. When I tell you, let me give you some feedback, your brain is under attack again. It's like, oh, here we comes. What did I miss? If you tell me, Guillermo, can I give you some feedback? I'm going to say, yes, okay, give it to me. But we are under attack because it's about something that was in the past. And sometimes people say in organizations, don't take it personal. Of course, I'm going to take it personal. You are going to tell me something about me that I did wrong. Of course, it's personal. I cannot not take it personal. So traditional feedback focuses in the past, and the brain can change the past. So what does the brain do? Defense against it. I cannot change what I did, so let me defend. Let me counterattack. So what do I use? Excuses, justifications, maybe disengagement, emotional withdrawal. Now, feed forward works differently because feed forward it's future focus. It's about solutions, not about past mistakes, not about the judgment, not about the guilty part. So when we use feed forward and we use it as future focused conversation, it invites solutions. It is going to activate again the prefrontal cortex. So instead of saying you handled that badly, which is judging and attacking the person about a past thing, I can ask, next time, what would you try to handle that differently? To handle that differently. Now, this is the beautiful thing. The future hasn't happened. The future is not here yet. So you cannot judge me about the future because I have not done any mistakes or successes. I'm not there yet. When we have a conversation about the future, we are talking about possibilities. We are talking about potential solutions. We are talking about how to improve or solve something, or a brainstorming to create new ideas around something. And I want you to notice that we are still dealing with the issue. We are still reviewing what went bad. We are still fixing that. But instead of fixing it by going to the past and attacking it and judging and reprimanding, we are fixing it by working about building a better future. You have heard maybe that definition they attribute to Einstein of craziness is doing the same things and expecting different results. What we don't want is to try in the same way. Every time there is a failure, every time someone fails with something, the information back is not to review the past that cannot be changed. The information back is to how can you try in a different way so this mistake is not repeated. I was very fortunate when early in my career, I worked for Microsoft in the golden years of Microsoft for 10 years. And I remember my first day at the job, my manager, a great leader, by the way, told me, Guillermo, in Microsoft, in this company, we accept mistakes. We accept failures. We want you to make mistakes. We want you to fail. We just have one condition. Don't fail with the same thing twice. Don't fail with the same thing twice. Make adjustments. Try in a different way. And that's exactly what Feed Forward is about. Let's chat about what are the changes that you need to do to have a different result that is going to be better than this or more satisfactory. A completely different brain response, even when we are dealing with the same issue. So the feed forward technique is a great thing my clients and people I help have found as very effective to develop people because the engagement that you get for people is very, very different. And we offer to you by participating in this masterclass today that at the end we will give you an opportunity to get this guide that we have to implement and feed forward in your leadership or implementing feed forward in your organization. We are going to give it to you at the end of the presentation. But I want you to notice also in that document that it's not only about talking out about solutions and the future, but also about creating a culture in your team, in your organization, when feed forward is requested. Because when I tell you, let me give you some feedback, I'm telling you my opinions from my perspective about your performance. But maybe for you, the concerns about your performance are different than mine. So what is a better technique instead of offering feedback is asking for that information, asking for the feed forward. Hey, I did a presentation today. Can I get some information from you? As we say it, can I get some feedback from you? Can I get some feed forward? Could you tell me a couple of ideas on how can I do better on interacting with the audience? So I'm not talking about my voice. I'm not talking about my content. Those are not concerns for me. The concern is interaction with the audience. And I'm asking for information exactly to what I want to fix or improve. So the benefit of creating a culture where you people ask for that information instead of receiving it is that they are going to ask for what they need when they need it, instead of you providing your perspective, which is not necessarily the thing that they want to improve. Of course, there are exceptions for all of these. Sometimes We are working on reviewing KPIs or reviewing performance goals or things like that. And we need to give our perspectives to some things. But for the majority of things in the day-to-day feedback, it's better if I create a culture where people come and ask me for what is my opinion instead of me imposing my perspective and opinion, because it's going to be more accurate. Now, let's move to the next step on this. The reason your leaders in your organization are not changing the way you would like or are not taking the information, and most leadership training fails, is because insights are powerful, the knowledge is powerful, they get great information in your leadership workshops, they get great ideas, but then it fades. We know that we don't retain all the information from a workshop, number one. We retain only a small percentage. And even when we maybe have leaders that leave that workshop inspired with a new knowledge or inspired with the new techniques that they learn, then they go to the day-to-day challenges, the pressure returns, and the old habits resurface. Why? Because the brain defaults to familiar neural pathways. So there is a concept in neuroscience that is called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity means that the knowledge that we have today about the brain is that the brain is like this plastic molding and is molding all the time. It's creating new connections, replacing old connections, and is creating these synapses and neurons connecting all the time in our life, all the time until we die. The old knowledge was that our brain evolved as the rest of our body, and that when we were 20 years old, 25 years old, the brain stopped evolving. That was the old knowledge. Now we know that is not true. The brain continue evolving and having different connections all the time. That's the concept of neuroplasticity. So in my brain, I have what is called neural pathways, which are my habits, ways of doing things, ways that are automatically connected and established. So I don't have to think about them. I just do them. And when we get new things that work for us, we need structures, we need awareness, and we need a lot of things to make it the new way. I like to use this metaphor. Again, imagine a nature trail. You are in a natural park, there is a trail, and you can see vegetation in both sides of the trail. But in the trail, it's like this, just no vegetation because everyone walks over there. So that's the road that it's being used. So that prevents vegetation from growing there. Vegetation is on the sides, but the path is very clearly marked. In our brain, when some connections get together and establish a pathway, that means that that is the respected and formal pathway. That's the way I do things. And it's not going to change. That's why we as humans are so resistant to change. And let me tell you a fun story. Many years ago, when I was giving these presentations, I was saying, well, maybe we have a lazy brain that doesn't want to change. But no, it's not a lazy brain. It's a very super efficient brain that is going to save resources. Because the same way that I mentioned, your brain needs blood irrigation and water and chemicals. Fun fact, 25% of the calories that you eat every day, 25% of your calories go to maintain the operation of your brain. So the brain is going to be more efficient with resources by not thinking. So when I want to create change, the brain is like, no, 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 don't make me think. We already have a pathway for this. We already have a habit for this. If you change it, I need to use more resources. So the brain is super efficient and tries to avoid that cost. That's why we have to be intentional. That's why a leadership alone doesn't work. That's why we need structures, executive coaching, new ways to remember things to create repetition, because that awareness combined with a structure and repetition is going to create new pathways. Back to my metaphor. If I start walking in a different place in that nature, where the trail is, but not over the trail. I start walking now over the vegetation, and I invite people to walk with me in this other route and walk and walk and walk. Over time, we are going to get rid of the vegetation in this new trail. We are going to establish a pathway. And if we stop using the old one, what's going to happen? Vegetation is going to grow there and it's going to be closed. So we create a new route by using it every day, and we close the other route by not using it every day. So we need to do the same with habits and with our brain. If I create a new way of doing things and I have my reminder, then I am creating a new pathway and abandoning the old one. Let me give you an example. Because of my communication style, I am very direct, to the point. I don't want to lose time. So when I write emails or messages, sometimes I go directly to my question or directly to what I want to find. Instead of, and that could go well with some people and have the same communication preferences or personality, but for some social people, it's actually rude. It's like, not even hello, good morning, how are you? What's going on? So I knew that that was not a good habit. I need to create a new habit of first saying hi or hello or how are you, and before asking my question. So I create what we call in coaching a structure. The structure was a post-it I put on my screen that said, say hi first. So every time I write an email, every time I write a message, I see my post-it and oh, hello, how are you? And then I go to my question. And I did that for a long time. Repetition, convincing my brain, forget about the old way of being so direct, learn the new way of saying hi first. And that new neural pathway was established. So I don't need my post-it anymore. And most of the time, I say hi first or how are you? Or even if I don't say it, now my brain reminds me and I go back to the first line and I add it. But I am operating in a different way. But that was not only my awareness that that was wrong. That was my awareness plus a structure, the post-it, plus repetition to create a new habit and open that new route, open that new neural pathway. That's what we do. So when we help leaders in coaching, that's exactly what we do. We create awareness, consciousness about what's going on. We create a plan. What are my actions to create a new neural pathway? And that means sometimes changing mindset, sometimes changing language, sometimes changing behaviors. And once I create that change, I put it in practice by having a reminder, a structure, repetition, until I convince my brain that this is the new way to go. Because if not, awareness alone cannot compete with the stress and with the pressures of the job. So awareness phase, pressure returns, all habits win. If I don't put in place the structures and the things that are going to help that leader to really create change. It's like that client that I have, a CEO that wanted to be more social with his people, wanted to be uh, engage better with the employees. But the bad behavior, the bad habit that he had was that every morning he got to his office all the way walking to his private office and never say even good morning or hi to people. So in one of the coaching sessions, he said, maybe one thing I could do is to start saying good morning to people in the cubicles, maybe shake some hands before I go to my office. And I said, well, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't you try that? And then he got scared. He said, well, but no. But if I do that, I wouldn't be myself. And people would be surprised that I am doing that. And I said, great, excellent. Because that's the beauty in coaching and leadership development. It's about not about being yourself. It's about being your new self. And your new self says hi and shake hands. It's going to feel uncomfortable at the beginning, but if you create a system of repetition, it's going to become second nature and it's going to become comfortable. That's what we mean when we talk about expanding the comfort zone. I'm going to do things that at the beginning feel weird, but over time with repetition, my brain creates a new neural pathway and they feel better. They feel comfortable. They now feel like part of me. People will stop being surprised. Now I am the person that says hi and shake hands. So it's important to get that consciousness as part of executive coaching processes so leaders can move forward with this kind of work and improvements. So what we have found is that what actually creates the lasting change is, as I said, neuroscience or understanding better the brain, Language, and that means using your words intentionally, being aware of the threatening language and the flight and fight response, and making adjustments to your language. Simple structures like that posted that create repeatable behaviors, that create the new neural pathway. And with that repetition over time, thanks to the structures, we are going to gain consistency over intensity. With time, we are going to win the battle. This is how leaders stop guessing and start leading with precision, not by trying harder, but by leading smarter. Now, before we move on, I want to give you something practical because insight without application doesn't change behavior. And one of the most common frustrations I hear from leaders is this: well, this makes sense, but how do I actually use it with my team? That's exactly why we created the Feed Forward Implementation Guide. Many of you may have heard of the concept of feed forward. It was originally popularized by Marshall Goldsmith, a great coach and great author with great books that I really recommend. And what we have done at Impact Coaching Solutions is that we take that powerful idea of the feed forward and we integrated it with neuroscience so leaders don't just know what to do, but understand why it works and how to apply it under real pressure. So the guide that you are about to receive is not theory. It's a simple, brain-friendly, step-by-step way to replace feedback conversations that create defensiveness with feed-forward conversations that create ownership. So inside the guide, you will find a clear explanation of why feedback often fails at the brain level, exactly how to give feed forward in 1 or 2 minutes, what to say and what not to say, real examples you can use immediately, and a step-by-step process for implementing feed forward with your team. Here's how I want you to think about this guide. This is not something to read once and file away. This is like a leadership operating manual. It's like to have it handy and you can use it in your next one-on-one, after your next presentation, before your next difficult conversation, or a simple practice with your team. And one important thing is you don't need to use every idea in it. If you apply even 1 or 2 feed-forward conversations consistently, you will start seeing less resistance with your team, better thinking, stronger accountability, and a very different energy in your team. And I also want to give you opportunity for those of you that are here today or that are watching the recording of our masterclass. I am offering some limited space opportunity for a chat, a strategy chat about how to do leadership development in your organization. It's going to be a 30-minute strategy conversation. No obligation. Is focused on understanding your leaders, understanding your turnover reality, and I have limited spots. That's a QR code to my calendar link to make an appointment for 30 minutes. No obligation, as I said. For some of you, today's masterclass is enough. For others, you are probably thinking, how do I apply this with my managers, with my culture, with my turnover numbers? That's why this is a limited opportunity for some of you to have this 30-minute strategy conversation. These are not sales calls. It's not to sell you. It's to understand your leadership challenges, your organizations, tell you my best ideas about that, give you maybe some additional tips that we didn't cover in the master class, and try to understand where turnover is really coming from, what leadership behaviors are driving it, what neuroscience-based development makes sense for you. If it's not a fit, I will tell you. But take advantage of this offer that I am making today, and for those watching the recording as well, because I have limited spots. Schedule with this QR code in my calendar your 30-minute strategy conversation so we can talk more about leadership development for you or for your leaders. Now, for you, one thing I mentioned at the beginning, the massive hidden cost of bad bosses and not fixing this in your organization with leaders. But I want you to think about this again. I want to stress the fact that what is the cost of inaction? Every day you wait has a cost because this is the uncomfortable truth. Every day your managers continue using threat-based language, there is a cost. Not always visible, but very real because people are less intelligent when working, disengage, sometimes the concept of quiet quitters because they give up of dealing with that manager, or sometimes the exit interviews that come as surprises that we didn't know that that was the reason they were leaving. So the cost of inaction is always higher than the cost of change. It might like something that we don't have in the budget or we didn't think about, like having a budget for leadership development to help our leaders with this. But think about this. That money that you are not assigning could help you solve the problem of losing millions with recruiting, selecting, rehiring, onboarding, training people because you have open spaces because people left for a bad manager. That's something that I want you to really reflect on. So today I want to leave you with this. You people don't need necessarily better perks. They don't need another engagement survey or a culture survey to see what is the environment. What they need is better conversations. And better conversations start in the brain. So when we talk from bad boss to team builder, what we are talking here doesn't happen overnight. Doesn't happen for a master class or for a leadership training. It happens when the bad boss gets this awareness, realize that the good intentions are not converting to high impact because there are no bad intentions. You know, as I said, they are not villains. They were just not trained and they are not aware of these dynamics. But once they realize that awareness and that consciousness, now they can work on specific goals in their leadership, specific actions to change mindsets and language and behavior. And that's why also coaching is so important because in a workshop, you're giving information for everyone. But maybe as a leader, my need is how to be better at recognizing people. For other one is how to get rid of the threatening language. For other one is how to stop micromanaging and delegate better. So each of your leaders have a different need and goal. And that's what we do when we work one-on-one with coaching to solve these things. Better conversations start in the brain. So from bad boss to team builder, as I said, doesn't happen overnight. But it starts with one decision: to leave the brain, not just the role. Lead the brain, not just the role. Not lead just with my functions as a manager, but lead with being intentional in my brain to engage better with people and to develop people. Because let me give you my definition of leadership. And there are as many definitions of leadership as leadership experts, but mine is one. Leadership is the art of delivering results by developing new people. Leadership is the art of delivering results by developing new leaders. So it's, of course, it's about getting the KPIs and the results. But as a leader, I need to do that while developing new leaders that become as good or better than me in leadership, in being leaders that create results and work to create a better organization. So I want to thank you for being here, and I want to give you the gift that we offer. And actually, we have a few minutes. If there are questions, if you have questions about what we covered today, please put them in the chat. Please put them in the in the Q&A or in the chat so I can read them and answer your question or open a mic if it's needed. But I want you to go to this QR code. This QR code is going to take you to a place where it's going to ask you a little bit of feedback about my presentation to feed forward, mainly to understand how can I adjust things in the future. But also, if you use the code, when it asks you for a code, use the word forward. It's going to ask you for a code, use the word forward, and that is going to allow you to download my feed forward implementation guide. We created a beautiful guide. You will have a PDF with all the steps, all the details about feed forward, how to do it, what to language to use, when to use it, when not, good examples, bad examples, practical cases. So we have everything you need to start working with feed forward in your leadership and with feed forward in your organization. And I encourage you, as you use the guide, to ask yourself one question. Where can I replace feedback? Where can I replace feedback with feed forward this week? In what conversations, in what meetings, in what one-on-ones, I can start replacing the concept of feedback with the concept of feed forward. And that single shift is going to change how your people experience you as a leader. So now let's look at how this fits into building lasting leadership habits. I really thank you for being here and download the guide and let me know if you have any questions. Um, I have a comment here. Thank you for the presentation. As a mentor and as an associate consultant on outplacement, executive outplacement, I realize I agree with all the ideas on incorporating neuroscience in all areas for leadership learning and also on the importance of the role of the mentor, the coach, and the person that is helping that executive to move forward their career. Thank you. Thank you for the comment, Ivan. And again, if you have more questions, let me put my email in the chat box. Is Guillermo, Guillermo, Guillermo is my name, Guellermo at icscoach.com. So if you have additional questions after this class or after checking the recording, please send me an email, get in touch with me, and I will be happy to chat with you. But especially remember, go and make your appointment to have the 30-minute strategy session to improve your organization and your leaders. And I'll be happy to chat with you about leadership development. Let me check if we have any other questions today. No, we're doing good here. So excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We will have the recording for you, and we will continue offering some master classes that help you as a leader or your leaders in your organization. Thank you so much, and have an excellent rest of the day and an excellent weekend. Thank you so much.